I've been a cop for 12 years. I've killed more bad guys than any two men on the department. In all these years, I never took a dime. Your share is $1 million in cash.
A doctor.
Do I have a choice?
A plan.
I want you to open a safe, collect your money, then go back to doing whatever it is you do.
And a twisted plot of extortion, passion, and greed.
Not some game.
Eric Roberts, Michael Rooker, Lizette Anthony. It's an HBO world premiere. The Hard Truth premieres Thursday, June 2nd on HBO.
Tonight, it's on HBO. At 9:30, the moments you were never supposed to see. America Undercover, Shock video. At 10:30, two sisters getting some action. Cynthia Rothrock, Honor and Glory. And at 12, the last word on the week that was. The new series, Dennis Miller Live. Shock video, Honor and Glory, and Dennis Miller. HBO is on tonight.
Undercover. Unrelenting. Unforgettable.
The video camera has changed our world, taking us places and showing us things previously hidden from view, from outer space to inner space, and creating in its image a brave new video world. So swiftly has the video revolution overtaken us that we have barely had time to count its blessings or consider its dark side. A brutal police beating is recorded by an amateur. A nanny abuses a child watched by the home video camera. Student demonstrators in Taiwan use video to show the world their oppression. A whole nation watches Amy Fisher talking about the Ferrari she wants for all the trouble she has been through.
I'm getting a Ferrari.
Pain and suffering.
Oh my God.
Smuggled videos from inside Iraq bring home the true horror of war. And a couple making love find themselves exposed and watched by millions. Is the video camera the best thing in crime fighting since Superman? Or is it Big Brother, invading our lives and stripping us of our privacy? Whether video cameras are our oppressor or savior, they have changed our lives forever. And we are still in shock from the video revolution. A revolution that began some 25 years ago.
It's a small TV camera that comes with Sony's home television studio, along with a video recorder. And with this $1,345 setup, you can produce your own shows at home on videotape. Sing, sweetheart.
A big black dog sat on the porch and Bingo was his name of B-I-N-G-O, B-I-N-G-O,
Okay. Want to see your pictures now?
Ready when you are, CB.
Today, the video camera is the modern equivalent of a chicken in every pot. It is estimated that there are some 40 million video cameras in the hands of private citizens worldwide.
Imagine a world in which video cameras cost next to nothing. They're the size of a pack of cigarettes. They can run for hours and hours and hours, or perhaps even days, and store all that information. You can record essentially everything. But the question is, when you do that, what have you got? Are we going to live literally in a video fishbowl so that every action will be recorded in one way or another?
Indeed, increasingly our every action is being recorded, as the mass popularization of video cameras has led to the creation of a surveillance society, where Big Brother, or at least a video camera, is watching our every move.
Today, we're used to being under surveillance. When we leave our home, we're often under surveillance as we drive our cars down the highway. And then we're filmed again driving to our businesses. And when we arrive at our businesses usually videotape the parking lot. When we go inside, our employer often videotapes our employment locations.
I heard a story recently about a woman who was in an elevator and she was adjusting her stockings. And she was the only person in the elevator, so she was fixing herself up and pulling up her stockings. And she heard a voice come out of nowhere and said, "Excuse me, ma'am." And she realized that there was a camera in the elevator that had been put there for security purposes, but that there was a security guard who was watching her in the elevator. There was no sign telling her there is a camera in this elevator.
Virtually everything will be caught on videotape or on a tape recorder, on audio tape. And we'll have a situation where there isn't virtually anything you do that someone isn't looking at or listening to. And that's a frightening situation.
The simplest, most effective, and least costly solution to the problem of employee theft is a Video Ranger covert surveillance kit. The Video Ranger is faster and less costly than the most common alternative, an undercover operative. It catches crime on video, with time and date included, instantly producing evidence that can be used to obtain confessions or in a court of law. The Video Ranger will make you an instant success in catching crime in your business.
I know the place where you work is not where you're always alone, but in that corner of your desk, that area, not to have a camera surveil everything you do, every gesture you make, every time you clean your ears, or all the little personal things that people do, to have that recorded so somebody can watch it as it's happening or on a videotape later, to me that's a horrible thing.
Employees of the Boston Sheraton were shocked to discover they were being watched by hidden video cameras in the male locker room. None of the covert tapes reveal any wrongdoing, and workers have sued the hotel for invasion of privacy. But video surveillance can be for our own good and protection, too. For example, when news broke that cans of Pepsi-Cola were contaminated with syringes, Pepsi was able to counter this fraudulent claim by publicizing an in-store video. The tape shows the woman first asking the storekeeper to open the can, and then holding the can out of sight, inserting a syringe into the opened can. Not surprisingly, law enforcement is starting to realize the tremendous potential of video cameras in fighting crime. Police are beginning to install video cameras mounted on the dashboard of their patrol cars, primarily to apprehend drunk drivers. Confronted with a videotape of their own drunkenness, most defendants plead guilty.
Now keep your eyes closed. Touch your nose with your right hand. All right, back. Put your arm back.
I can't do this sober.
Okay.
I cannot do this at all.
Step right back over there, please. Okay, you can put your arms down. You can put your...
I cannot.
Step right back up here.
I can't do this. We've done this in my psychology class.
Okay, you can
do this.
Okay, put your arms down your side.
Okay.
It was for the purpose of apprehending drunk drivers that Officer Lunsford had a video camera installed in his car, but he ended up videotaping his own murder. Since then, his widow has gone on numerous talk shows campaigning for the use of these cameras in police cars.
Brave lady, with your permission, I'd like to roll this tape.
You can roll it, but I won't be able to watch it all.
Okay. Jim Bob? Shirley, you have a letter?
I do.
What is it?
It's a letter I wrote to a critic that said that this was sick TV when we showed videos like this. And I wrote back to her, and I told her that, hey, lady, this is reality. This is what goes on. And people need to know what's happening in the real world. People are good peace officers are giving their lives for all of us.
As a result of the videotape, the perpetrators of this fatal shooting were arrested and convicted. Meanwhile, in response to dwindling personnel and resources, police are beginning to experiment with the idea of putting entire cities under video surveillance. In Newark, New Jersey, until recently the auto theft capital of the world, police have installed video cameras to monitor the downtown business district in an experiment that may be the future of law enforcement.
Video patrol is, in essence, cameras placed at strategic locations, monitored by one police officer 24 hours a day, and the ability to have police officers respond within a second's notice via walkie-talkie radio is what it comes down to. The cameras have the ability to pan, tilt, and zoom 360 degrees, and they're equipped with a 310 millimeter zoom lens, which can effectively bring them in pretty close, pretty tight.
All right, this junkie in there. See, he's looking for the dealer. So what would happen when you just keep your camera on and just wait? So sometimes it's a waiting game, where sometimes you just gotta sit here 5, 10, 15 minutes and wait. Where they go, I go with the camera.
The police officers are able to watch something and videotape it and watch it as it's happening, and then it's easy police work. Just go by, pick up the people, and you're under arrest. We have it on videotape. Cuts out all the guesswork. You can't lie with a videotape.
In the very near future, the sky will be the limit for video surveillance. UAVs, or unmanned aerial vehicles, were used in the Gulf War to spy behind enemy lines. But with lightweight cameras, UAVs like the Pointer may soon be patrolling our city streets and have already been tested along the Mexican border to detect illegal immigrants.
During the recent LA riots, we received a number of inquiries during the conflict for a capability such as Pointer. For law enforcement in an urban area, a small vehicle like the Pointer is particularly well suited because it does not require a runway to take off or other landing equipment. It can literally be used from the back of a regular vehicle. It can be flown from a parking lot or in the middle of the street and deployed very quickly by law enforcement officers.
As one legal commentator once said, a watched society is a conformist society. But it's this type of recording that I think is so detrimental in our society that it will have a chilling effect on the kinds of things that people do, on the kinds of things that they say. We don't want to turn people into kind of stiff, wooden, self-conscious people. And there's always some reason and that we're supposed to give up all of our privacy as a way of having a secure and safe society. But it seems to me that it's too high a price to pay.
Another response to being watched more than ever before is to watch right back. Today, there are an estimated 14 million camcorders in the hands of ordinary Americans, creating a virtual army of video vigilantes.
In his classic book, 1984, Orwell warned about a society in which you turn on the TV and Big Brother has a camera watching you. And of course, what we've done is flip that around. We've turned it backward. Yes, Big Brother's watching us, but at the same time, we are watching Big Brother. The Velvet Revolution of the Czechs, when they overthrew the communist government, also the students used video cameras and then set up television sets on street corners to play the results. And Big Brother ain't going to know what hit him until there are literally millions and millions and millions of camcorders in the hands of poor people, in the hands of minorities, in the hands of terrorists. And I believe that this is not something that our present political structures are going to be able to accommodate without phenomenal change.
In 1989, Michael Rosenblum, a former ABC News producer, armed himself with a home video camera and went to live in the occupied territories of the Gaza Strip.
This is the back road to the Jabalia refugee camp in the Gaza Strip. Jabalia is not an easy place to get into, particularly with a television camera. Officially, television crews need an Israeli military escort. This trip was unofficial.
He was dissatisfied with network coverage of the Israeli occupation and wanted to see, document, and bring home what life there was really like. Today, Mike Rosenblum teaches a groundbreaking video journalism class at Columbia University.
This is a high-8 camera, EVO 9100. With this camera, you can go anywhere, make your own television, put it on the network. You don't need CBS. You don't need cameramen. You don't need soundmen. You don't need producers. You don't need on-air morons making $1 million a year. All you need is this little machine.
In what he calls video Bolshevism, Rosenblum urges his students to follow his example and arm themselves with video cameras against totalitarian broadcasting regimes. He illustrates this with an example from the Gulf War, when it was widely assumed that CNN's Peter Arnett was the only television journalist inside Iraq. However, John Alpert, an independent producer, was also there with a camcorder and telling a very different story.
Your family was hurt? Your father was hurt?
Yes.
Tell me, what happened to your father?
His leg broken and his hand and all face. No face. No, his lips and nose, everything. His eyes.
We found the woman's father in the hospital. His face had been virtually burned off.
And here is John Alpert actually running around Iraq with this video camera. Well, of course, what he's shooting is what happens when you drop, 5 million pounds of high explosives on civilian populations. A lot of people get killed. The Americans saw this sort of network control view of the smart bomb goes down the street, makes a left-hand turn, goes in the window, and blows up the guy's desk. In fact, that's not what was happening. So yeah, if you think we live in a country with a free press, forget it. Forget it. And that's why it's in nobody's interest in the power structure in this country to democratize video. What for? It's the same reason that the power structure in Europe was so resistant to the printing press and making people literate. They didn't want a literate society. Well, they need that kind of aggravation for it.
Another of Rosenblum's points is that you don't need to be a professional reporter to use a video camera. Anyone can do it. And neither do you need to go as far afield as the Gaza Strip or Iraq to combat Big Brother. You can do it in your own backyard, like David Lynn, for example, an ex-Marine who first became interested in civil rights abuse when serving in Vietnam, and who now runs a private investigation service specializing in cases of police brutality.
As a private investigator out on the streets, in the inner city streets, on a late Saturday or Friday night, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, the most powerful weapon out there is the video camera.
Over a year before the Rodney King incident, David Lynn filmed Don Jackson, an off-duty black police officer, who drove into Long Beach to prove that the police there were guilty of racism and brutality.
We had been told that Long Beach was a hot spot. My organization had evidence of that. We had 50 complaints, of which 80% were from Latinos and African Americans who had been abused by white officers. We knew what we were riding into. And literally within 5 minutes of driving into Long Beach, Don Jackson was pulled over.
Put your fucking hands on your head! You're gonna hit me with that stick? Yeah, I just might. For what? Put your hands on your head. For what? I don't know if you got a fucking knife, you asshole! I don't have a knife. Put your fucking hands on your head, turn around! Fucking asshole.
Nothing, man, nothing. Nothing, man. I'm all right, okay? No problem.
Get the fucking driver out.
And then arrested for felony assault on a police officer, which was later reduced to interfering with an officer, which was later thrown out.
Charlie 6. I need a sergeant out to our location. 11041, channel 1, 11041.
In May of 1988, the first incidents that we know of of police violence captured on video happened in Torrance and was captured by a young man who sat there and watched and videotaped his friend being choked out by a Torrance police officer and then, once unconscious, being beaten by another officer. Very horrific images. This young man was scared to death. He had been chased to the freeway by Torrance police officers trying to get the video camera.
Again. Leave. What, you gonna hit me too? No, but I will take you to jail. I know my dad will sue you. He's an attorney at PD. That's super. Meanwhile, me. Leave. Come on. You ain't taking my camera. Get in the house, man. Get in the house. We need that. We can't do it. I'm out of here, man.
The police need to watch what they're doing, and in fact, they do watch what they're doing because they never know when they're going to be in effect on candid camera.
All right, I'm getting down. I'm getting down. I'm getting down. I'm getting down. Give me a chance. I didn't do anything. Give me a chance. Put your fucking hands out of me. I'll fucking crack your skull. You got me? Yeah, I got you. Get the fuck out of here. All right.
You see people with their heads beaten in, with their eyes falling out, people who are dead, and police who look very satisfied. And yet, everybody says there's no police brutality when you know there's police brutality, but it's always the word of the police against the word of whomever has been beaten this week. And until you had these tapes, the public at large was kind of left to guess. They'd say, well, you know, maybe this happened, maybe it didn't happen. But with the tape, no one can say that it doesn't exist and that it doesn't exist big time.
Down on your face. What the fuck? What is going on here?
People aren't just using their cameras to police the police. They are also using them to police one another, mounting their own surveillance and sting operations.
Got good Karen. Good Karen.
Quark Spy Shop is a leading retailer of video surveillance equipment in what is a growing trend.
Of all our clients, the biggest or largest growth pattern we've seen is the general public at large, who are using these video systems, as I said, for a variety of different applications, such as babysitters at home. A lot of parents in America are very concerned about their children being abused. There are a variety of other possibilities. For example, parents, especially in America, are very concerned, like I'm sure parents all over the world, are concerned about the drug problem. And a lot of parents are putting in hidden cameras, hidden video systems, where they can monitor the children at home to make sure they're not doing drugs. And this is a big problem. It's one that has to be addressed one way or the other, but they have to, because if they don't catch them soon enough, then they're going to have a problem later on, and the drug problem is enormous.
Betty Napier from Florida was stalked by a man who would masturbate outside her window. After buying a gun, she turned to a video camera, and it was the video camera that turned out to be the more effective weapon. In one remarkable example of amateur video surveillance, Bill Kiley, a gay man from California, shown here immediately after his beating, set up a video camera to document his abusive neighbors.
The videotape not only tells my story and the tier of events as they took place, but without that videotape, I would have been the one in jail because the family of the boy that attacked me immediately told the police. In fact, they called the police before I did to tell the police that I was attacking their son, their minor child. But because of the videotape and the reality that you could see, the pain that you could feel that I was going through, that made all the difference to the district attorney's office, to the police department, and hopefully eventually in the court.
Generally, it is hard to argue with the videotape. In this particular case, the defendants, a group of muggers from Washington, D.C., videotaped themselves in the act, and the tape was used to convict them.
Knock the man out! Oh, shit! Who was it that knocked the man out? Oh, shit! Who was it that knocked that young man out?
Take the lighter. I want the lighter. Get that nigga up, man. Tell him to go ride past.
They knocked the motherfucker out. Oh, shit. They knocked that motherfucker out.
An unblinking eye. The video camera does not spare us the spectacle of humanity's darker side. And no matter whose hands the cameras are in, this society of video vigilantes presents certain problems.
Well, the problem today is not Big Brother. We've got a Constitution to protect us against Big Brother. The problem is Little Brother, and there is not anything in our Constitution to protect us against them. Not long ago, the world was really appalled by the revelations that the Ceausescu regime had put boulevards under continual surveillance, video cameras on main corners and thoroughfares. Well, I look at the Ceausescu regime and I say, that's small stuff. You know, you could have a handful of videotapes on boulevards. I've got 14 million cameras on every neighborhood, on every street, on every block in the United States. Not only that, but they're moving because they're on the shoulders of people who are getting a big kick out of conducting surveillance. Ceausescu could never imagine having a surveillance force like the one we have in the United States.
In the San Fernando Valley in California, the police are realizing the potential of this surveillance force by training some 50 volunteers to conduct unarmed and unpaid video stings with their own cameras. However, videotape is not infallible evidence. Although videotape may tell us nothing but the truth, does it tell us the whole truth?
Well, when the videotape is played in court for a jury, the lawyers for the opposing sides, prosecutors and defense lawyers, are going to emphasize different things. They're going to try to make the jury see different things, as they did in the Rodney King case. What the jury saw there was what the lawyers directed them to see, and they saw it as the lawyers pointed it out, not as the prosecution. So you have interpretations that are going to have an effect on what seems to be an open and shut case.
Videotape cannot speak for itself. It says nothing for itself. And the three rules of video interpretation are context, context, and context. And nothing could have proven this more visibly than the Rodney King tapes and the Rodney King trial, so to speak. And for members of the jury of that trial to have interpreted that tape in such a way as to suggest that Rodney King was somehow in control of the situation when he was on the ground, being pummeled to within an inch of his life, that he was somehow in active control of the situation and being a perpetrator, is surely a spectacular evidence of how contextual these interpretations are.
In many cases, the videotape brings the act to clarity and brings those responsible to justice, as in this video store burglary in Des Moines, Iowa, where the thieves stole the camera but left the incriminating videotape behind. But in other cases, such as the Latasha Harlan's murder, although the videotape clarifies what happened, the course of justice is less clear-cut. The tape clearly shows a Korean shopkeeper shooting and killing a black teenage girl as she walked away. But the accused only got what was considered a relatively light sentence.
We have to bury forever the notion that we can believe what we see. What we see is not necessarily what we think it is. And now we have to completely accept that. But it's very hard to accept when all one's instinct and upbringing says, my eyes tell me the truth.
Amateur videotape may not always stand up in court, but it is keeping us glued to our seats in front of our TV sets, as programs utilizing amateur video are increasingly in vogue. This raises the concern that the main effect of the video revolution may be a media of voyeurism that some argue has no regard for matters of taste, privacy, or even people's lives. Today, if anything happens, the sheer abundance of video cameras all but guarantees that someone will have videotaped it, making the appearance of graphic amateur tapes on the news routine. And television news stations actively solicit these tapes.
News can happen anywhere. If you're there, see it, shoot it, send it to CNN Newshound. Call 1-800-544-NEWS.
Meanwhile, amateurs are only too keen to market their footage of accidents, crimes, and other horrors to television news. Larry Roberts is the founder of Home Video News Network, a support organization for amateur news hounds.
Home Video Network is a nationwide organization of regular citizens who just happen to have a camcorder and who happen to be in the right place at the right time to shoot a news event. We have about 3,800 members nationwide today. I also have members in Canada, and I have a few members overseas who dabble in it.
I really got interested in it because I was able to record things just around the house and record my little girl growing up. And I just happened to start recording unusual weather that was happening here in San Diego. One time we had a little snowstorm. For San Diego, it was a snowstorm. I recorded that one morning. And Larry thought that was a great thing to call the stations on to see if they were interested in that. And we sold it to some stations in San Diego and Los Angeles.
So after selling 3 or 4 or 5 pieces for my wife, who just did it in her spare time, I figured, well, if I could do this for my wife, and I see a lot of home videos showing up on the news, why don't I, put together a tape and an organization and help these people do it? And that's how it evolved.
We can see this was a serious accident. But with the close-up of the truck's interior, you are showing the viewer that the driver, who escaped injury, was lucky to get out alive. Wreckage and flames make great video, but you must also remember the people involved in these stories. TV stations are more likely to buy your video if you emphasize the people angle. Most stations have a set fee they will pay for video, as little as $25 in a small town to as much as $125 in a major market. But sometimes you can expect to get much more.
It's fun. You get to go out behind the police lines where no one else can go. The excitement of getting there, getting it to the TV stations and getting it back and seeing it on TV. The TV stations want anything that has smoke and fire on a fire. Flames shooting out the side of the building, people hanging from the sides. They want the major trauma stuff. So that's what brings in the ratings, and that's what they want. The worst that I've ever shot would have been the triple fatal in La Costa in San Diego. The car that hit the parked car went right over the top of it, sheared from the rear bumper to the front windshield. The car was completely gone. It was shredded. It was toast.
I think if you go to a car crash, or the more perfect example is the LA riots,
you'll have kids going to those LA riots, shooting, you know, mayhem and disaster and looting, and the next phone call they make once they finish shooting their home video is, let's get the lawyer and sell the rights to a news company or to a tabloid journalism program. And they say, you know what, it's $10,000 a minute, and it's exclusive to this day, and you can't use it in any other rights, and if you repeat it, it's $5,000. So America's become very savvy about what the value of an image is.
So savvy, in fact, that Timothy Goldman, who videotaped the flashpoint of the LA riots and the beating of Reginald Denny, has made some $100,000 from licensing his footage. Unlike George Holliday, who videotaped the Rodney King incident, but only received $500 from the local TV station for ostensibly selling it outright. However, he has filed a $100 million lawsuit for copyright infringement.
The Copyright Act is based upon the idea that by protecting works, forms of expression, that we will encourage people to go out and to do things. By paying compensation to individuals that videotape significant events, people will go out and perhaps take newsworthy videotapes. Additional facts come into public discourse, and that hopefully we arrive at the truth. So there is a very, very important policy reason why these individuals should receive compensation for what they're doing.
And it's not just news that is thirsty for graphic, on-the-spot coverage. If the camcorder had not existed, tabloid television would have had to invent it. Entertainment shows featuring amateur and professional tapes, from the hilarious to the horrific, have proved to be inexpensive ratings winners.
But there is no doubt that one of the hottest trends in American television today is the hidden camera, where you hide the camera in a briefcase, a purse, in a piece of jewelry, or whatever, and you find abhorrent people involved in cheating or whatever. That's a very hot thing in journalism. I mean, research says that the public loves it.
The premise of eyewitness video basically is that we are in the midst of a video revolution. As a result of that, there are camcorders everywhere. What's happened in our society at large is that the sort of nuclear cluster of people that nurtured you and that was part of your immediate circle is anachronistic now. It's just not how it is. We don't live in small communities. We don't interface with the same people every day. And so video opens us up to a huge family, the global family, really.
In Northern California, rescuers struggle to free a trapped teenage driver before he bleeds to death.
In the case of Code 3, we began, as we did with cops, following around real-life paramedics and rescue units across the country and indeed across the world. We discovered rather quickly that that was not practical. Why is it not practical? You're not always there when something happens, to be quite honest. And we're not there to make it happen, so unless it happens, nothing happens. As a consequence, we shifted gears and decided to submit or to invite amateurs to submit their films to us, or their videotapes, rather.
A young girl dangles precariously 30 feet above the pavement, clinging with a broken arm to a single steel cable. A man in a nearby seat yells his encouragement.
These are the kinds of things, I think, that, while admittedly voyeuristic in the sense that they fascinate and grip our attention, I think are also interesting in that you can see examples of courage, and you can witness things you would never witness on a day-to-day humdrum life that most of us, self-included, live.
The difference between voyeurism and curiosity, which one would you rather have applied to you? You know? Yeah, exactly. So I think there's a certain curiosity rather than voyeurism of people coming to the television at 8 o'clock on Sunday night and looking for our show.
It's all about making money. It's all about selling dog food and cereal. And that's, in an open market society such as ours, that's the name of the game. But let's not fool ourselves into thinking that those television shows are doing it as a public service. They're doing it because they've discovered watching other people's amateur videos sell.
Big bucks and big ratings, but at what price? Are zealous camcorder users endangering our privacy?
Why do people like looking over each other's fences? Why do people automatically want to see round a corner or behind a curtain? It's human nature. It's more fun. There is a curiosity, a prurience in all of us. And I suppose what the camcorder has done once we've stopped photographing our kids splashing in pools, it's given us the opportunity to be very prurient and to record it and then to see it in sort of grainy documentary footage, which gives it this sort of cast of glamour.
And this story has exploded onto the national scene. Reporters from all over the United States are calling the couple's attorney and the man who shot the videotape.
Well, when I was at a current affair, we had a call from someone who said he had some videotape that he had taken from his own backyard of a couple making love.
Tonight, a Tampa couple faces felony charges after making love in the man's condo bathroom, just 10 feet from a pool where neighbors watched. One neighbor videotaped the tryst, which he and others say was just the beginning of trouble.
I started filming from, I guess, right about here.
Lee Adler says the neighbors had complained before about sexual activity here, but with no proof to prosecute. This time, he grabbed his camera.
He invaded our privacy out here. We were out at the pool area. We were having a good time until he came out and started putting on a little sex show.
Would I have shown that tape on television? No. That was a private moment in their life, and certainly not something that I think should be for public consumption. There's a privacy issue there. And the other thing is, do we really need to see it?
Sealed by the court, the tape has never been seen on television. However, claiming that the camcorder has ruined their lives, the couple are suing the videotaper for invasion of privacy and have written a song about their ordeal.
If you're gonna take some pictures, shoot some junkies dealing crack, or some robbers, or some rapers, or some cops on the attack. If you're gonna make an issue, better leave this one alone. It's a natural situation when a couple's home alone. There's sex behind the mini blinds. If you thought that AIDS was dangerous, now they're killing you.
Generally, if somebody is doing something out in public where they can be observed, they have no right not to have that turned from a mere observation into a recording of their observation. So the line has to be, it seems to me, between what you do knowing people are going to be watching you and what you do with a legitimate, reasonable expectation that what you do will not be observed by others.
Where should the line be drawn in terms of video voyeurism? In the Preppy murder case, a girl was found brutally strangled in Central Park. Robert Chambers confessed to the murder, claiming it happened accidentally during rough sex. On the eve of his trial, an amateur videotape was unearthed that showed Chambers with his guard down, and the broadcast of which tried and convicted him in a court of public opinion.
Robert Chambers goes to a slumber party in New York. I think it was December 22nd or whatever. And as is the custom in this world we live in, there's a video camera present. The videotape of Chambers was an X-ray, not only into his personality, but into a whole generation whose morality seemed totally alien to me. Probably the most telling part of the home video involves a bizarre game of charades. For reasons best known to Chambers himself, he picked the title of a play, the first word of which should be clear to everyone from what follows.
You can't move. Dad. Death of a salesman. Death of a salesman.
Tape became an inordinate success because we did use portions of it for 2 half-hour shows. I think the first one rated either a 33 or 34 share in New York. The second one did a 32 share. It was incredible. It put sort of what people call tabloid television on the map, and a lot of clones began to appear.
Tonight, on hard copy, the tapes that shocked New York.
Abramowitz was also involved in an even more controversial case of video voyeurism in the Amy Fisher story, in which a teenager shot and partially paralyzed a married woman with whose husband she allegedly had had an affair. Abramowitz was incensed to see Fisher portrayed as a young, innocent victim led astray by an older man, at the same time as she was considering movie deals and apparently enjoying her notoriety. He defends the broadcast of the tape against charges of gratuitous titillation by saying that it brought legitimate insight to bear.
Well, on the eve of a sweetheart plea bargain deal, I get a hold of a tape of Amy Fisher being Amy Fisher, and being Amy Fisher in a way that, to me at least, is even more shocking than the Chambers tape.
Now I won't let him in the box.
Why?
Why? Because I can make a lot of money right off from you. And I figure if I have to go through all the pain and suffering, I'm getting a Ferrari.
Pain and suffering?
I don't want to go with that.
I know you don't.
But I figure I'm being a good sport about it.
It's wrong to put bullets in people's heads. It's wrong to sign movie contracts after you've done that. It's wrong to make money on it. It's wrong to say that you've been a good sport and deserve a Ferrari. What you should say is, dear, dear God, what awful, horrible thing have I perpetrated? And how do I redeem myself? It's the real Amy Fisher. Everyone who sees that video will always remember her the way they see her there.
Meanwhile, other tabloid shows aren't just waiting for the tapes to come in, but are going even further by handing out camcorders and turning viewers into voyeurs, couch potatoes into video vigilantes.
We knew America was fed up with street crime, but we had no idea how deep the frustration runs. Since we introduced our Video Crime Buster hotline, the phone has been ringing off the hook. We'll have that number for you again in just a moment. But first, we'll take you back to the front lines to meet more camera-toting crime fighters in this special investigation, Vice Camera Action.
I think that up until now, virtually all of the home videotape that you've seen on American television, all of that video is what I call reactive. It's already been shot by an individual. What I think we're stepping into now is to be more proactive with the use of the home video cameras.
The video cameras that we are using, we got them from Current Affairs. They're letting us use them so that we can get the stuff on film.
A Current Affair has now done a number of stories in which neighborhood watch groups use video cameras to catch prostitutes in the act.
Tonight, being out videotaping all the hookers, I do feel like a video vigilante. I feel that way because of, like, being spying on them. But they need to be spied on.
I think for the most part it's naive to think that that form of entertainment in a way is a sort of lasting challenge. It's one way of eliciting, I think, the consent of the citizenry for a surveillance society, that people are more comfortable with the idea of a surveillance society if at some level they feel they are participating in that surveillance society.
All of a sudden, we're deputizing millions of people to become police officers, people with no training, or telling them to be reporters. You know, most reporters are professionals. Yeah, put some dangerous felon on your sofa and play deputy dog, and maybe you'll get on eyewitness video. Maybe, better yet, you'll get on Current Affairs a dead person who filmed his own shooting. But, you know, no one's concerned with that because it's good entertainment.
Our first agenda is to help people we think are righting a wrong. One of the things we find pretty good about it as a weapon is that, in effect, it's a harmless weapon, at least physically. In other words, it's not a gun. So that if you're wrong about the person that you point that thing at, they're not dead, or wounded, or crippled.
You might need a gun for protection, but you don't need one to prove a point.
When you've got a video camera.
When you've got a video camera, you can very well prove your point.
Diane and Randy from Baldville, Ohio, used their camera as a weapon when their children found a couple making love in a pickup truck parked on the street at the end of their garden. The tape ended up on a Current Affair, who called their story Love Truck.
But the big scandal of this video sex act was that the offender, 49-year-old Gary Offenberg, is a man who comes home at 5:15 on the dot every day to his loving wife. But it was not his wife who he was loving in the front of this pickup. When we tried to speak with the lady in the pickup, Lynn Ulrich, she wasn't in the mood for a chat.
Fremont, Ohio is small town USA. It's small enough that everyone pretty much knows everyone else. So when the local and national press did a story on a couple having sex on a public road in a pickup truck, some felt the media invaded the couple's privacy. The man in question has been found dead, apparently at his own hands. As for the question of what role the media played in this man's death, it appears now we may never know.
How much do you punish a person? That's what my problem is with it. And I didn't think it was a newsworthy story. Maybe the news media did. Fine. It's nothing unusual for us. Almost an every-night occurrence. And if we see him, we usually tell him to move on. What made this spectacular, because it was on video. Everybody that I talked to just thought, hey, they've had enough, you know?
But is the video camera a lethal weapon? And is the technology to blame?
You can use a Rolls Royce to have a nice ride in. You can use it to run over kids, you know? Is it the Rolls Royce or is it the use of it? I don't know. But I think it's kind of obvious. Yeah, of course you can abuse it. Are you going to stop the technology? No, you won't.
People aren't just using their cameras to spy on one another. They're also turning them on themselves and making do-it-yourself porn films. Homegrown Video, the largest distributor of these tapes, forecast that soon 3/4 of all adult videos produced will be homemade.
Psychologists that I've talked to have said that they believe that these videos could be an indication of things to come between human beings. Most groups of people who get together talk about our difficulty being intimate with one another. And I think a lot of people that see these videos say, if they could do that on camera, maybe I could tell a little bit more of the truth to my boss at work and to my children when they ask me questions about reality.
If people want to use their cameras in this way, it will be hard to outlaw this private voyeurism. In fact, the moral may be that voyeurism is a natural part of the human condition. And although the video revolution has made us aware of this, perhaps we have yet to come to terms with it. Indeed, the video revolution is challenging us to reevaluate what is and what is not acceptable in terms of law enforcement, individual privacy, and popular entertainment. In short, the video camera is invading every area of our lives.
What next? X-rays? And the question is, we will be showing everybody everything, because it will be unavoidable to do so when the walls of our apartments are in fact screens that are looking at us, or screens that we are pointing at others. Every room or every 6 inches will have an eye. We will be living in the pupil of 1,000 eyes at any given moment.
So as we evolve from Homo sapiens to video sapiens, will we finally be enlightened, or will our vision be more eclipsed? One thing is sure, we ain't seen nothing yet.
Don't touch that remote. Dennis Miller is coming up live from LA during the break with a sneak preview of tonight's show, airing later at midnight, right here on HBO.
Hi, I'm Dennis Miller, but my Top Gun name is Lola Falana. Join me in just an hour and a half when I examine the legal system in America. Our guests will be...
My client has never heard of any so-called Cosa Nostra, and furthermore is a much decorated war hero. My client will answer no further questions at this juncture.
Dennis Miller, live, tonight at midnight, only on HBO.
Next on HBO. It's the second installment in our double feature Friday lineup. She may be small, but a shrinking violet she ain't. Cynthia Rothrock in Honor and Glory. Next on HBO.
On June 6th, you're gonna spend some time behind bars. If you think you know what to expect, think again.
We like it rough! We like it tough! We like it like that! Yeah, boy! Yeah!
If you commit a crime in New York City, you don't go to hell. You go to Rikers. Lock up. The Prisoners of Rikers Island, an America Undercover exclusive.
This is just an everyday life.
Premieres Monday, June 6th, only on HBO.
HBO is moving in.
Welcome to 113. I like it here.
To a deluxe apartment, totally wired for cable.
Let me see.
Friendly neighbors.
Oh, they sure are.
And a view to die for. Sharon Stone, William Baldwin, and Tom Berenger.
You like to watch? Watch this.
Sliver. Premieres Saturday, May 28th on HBO.
A few things in life are guaranteed. For one, there's a new movie every Saturday night on HBO.
Come on.
No repeats.
Saturday, everybody floats.
52 weeks a year.
The new chicken and shrimp, the new beef and oriental vegetables, or our anytime breakfast, you'll have no reservations at all. Perkins, breakfast, dinner, and everything in between.